Feels like we just got started, and now we are nearing the home stretch here in the 2026 WCBL season. We just finished up the All-Star break, of course, that taking place in Saskatoon on Saturday and Sunday, and now we're back to the action. It is go time for all teams in the Western Canadian Baseball League as they push for the playoffs. One team that doesn't have to worry about that is the team that the Medicine Hat Mavericks will take on tonight, and that is the Moose Jaw Miller Express. 10-0 in their last 10. First place in the Eastern Division. Their offense, it is flashy, it is fast, it is scrappy, and they bring that here to Medicine Hat for the last time, at least in the regular season in 2026. Meanwhile, the Mavericks, not the stretch that they were looking for to end going into the All-Star break. 3-7 in their final 10 games before the big show in Saskatoon, and it was an unfortunate end to that stretch. They went 0-3 rather down the line, and so they come into this game on a losing streak, very opposite for Moose Jaw. This feels like a bit of a trap game in many ways. How long can the win streak last for the Miller Express? Can the Medicine Hat Mavericks finally get off the schneid and get back into the win column? They need wins. The playoff push is on, and we've got lots of action here today on Flow Sports. Lots of action around the WCBL, which we'll always keep you posted on. But focusing at this game, at the game at hand here, mentioned it, Miller Express and Medicine Hat. Very different teams, very different situations this year, but bitter rivals always. These are two teams that do not like each other. Their history goes far back. They've had crazy playoff battles and a couple of good ones already this year. The Miller Express controlling the season series at 4-2, so they have the upper hand, feeling pretty good against a Medicine Hat group that has given them troubles in the past. And for a team that is veteran riddled, a lot of those players remember maybe some of the nightmares that this Medicine Hat group has provided in years past. So we will get you to our starting lineups, our first pitch, and everything else that has to do with the Millers and the Mavericks. My name is Truman Bartman. I'll be alongside you all night tonight, and look forward to sharing it with you. We'll be back here on Flow Sports. Your WCBL starting lineups always presented by Fortis Alberta. We have them here for you tonight, and it is the Mavericks who we will start with, and it is the same look that they've been going with. Evan Morrison leading off, playing in center field. Blake Dale to his right, but our left in left field. Frankie Giacalone checks back in at first base. He had a day break on Friday, now gets into the action. 3 days in total, I guess, break-wise for Giacalone, who is not an all-star this year. Carter Roth playing at second base. He has logged a lot of games recently, including the all-star game where he was named MVP. He's in the cleanup spot. Nick Hill will play third. Johnny Volcano over at short. Eric Calder draws back into the lineup full-time in a DH role. Jamel Chabot behind the plate. And Adam Volcano, who's had a spectacular 2026 so far for a guy who we've kind of seen grow up here at Athletic Park. He's over in right field. And we've seen a lot of players grow old within the Moose Jaw Miller Express lineup over the years, including the likes of Thomas Soto and William Edwards. Both guys have made multiple all-star appearances. They were at the game on the Saturday and Sunday, along with Chris Franks, and those three all-stars all at the top of the order. The returning veteran from 2025, Eddie Sines, over at first base. Garen Plummer will do the catching. Jacob Mraz over in right field. Michael Rago will be at third base. Jimmy Kurtz over in left field. And Ben Wallachek, the speedy second baseman, is batting in the 9 spot. Really the same look we've seen throughout the years from the Miller Express. Now we'll take you down to field level here at Athletic Park for our national anthem and return with tonight's starting pitcher for the Mavericks. You can't really refer to him as a new pitcher anymore, but Jackson Miles, he's had less starts than most of his Maverick counterparts at home, but he's climbing up the ladder, and he gets another one here tonight. 1-0 on the season for Miles, a 5.02 ERA, and 12 strikeouts. He's pitched this year against the Moose Jaw Miller Express at their place, Ross Wells Park, and he actually fared pretty well there, so this is a familiar group that he gets to see. I guess we'll figure out who has the upper hand in this matchup. Is it more favorable to the players, or hitters rather, to know what Miles is tossing out, or if he on the mound now knows their tendencies? He's got a lot of hot bats to deal with, including the likes of Thomas Soto and William Edwards, but nobody has been talked about less than Chris Franks. He's an all-star this year, so his name's been in the conversation with the league's top hitters, but often in the shadow of the other two that I just mentioned. Franks is a threat no matter what pitch you throw him. He adjusts well, he slaps well, and he puts the ball in play, and that's what Moose Jaw does best. They're maybe not the most tactical team. They're not somebody who's going to awe you with crazy high-end talent, but they have hitters who know their strengths, and they figure it out. They play to what their group is known for. That is being speedy and being scrappy, as I mentioned off the top, and that's really fun to watch when they get going. An exciting group that is unpredictable. Jackson Miles has his hands full on the mound, and for Miles, spent 2 parts of this year at 2 different places. He finished up his collegiate season at Dallas Eastfield, if you can remember back to last season. Jensen Cockrell, who was more of a reliever for the Mavericks, pitched there, so the Mavs have gotten their worth out of the Dallas Eastfield College, and for Jackson Miles, came up here. Didn't really know where he would slot in initially. The Mavericks thought they could use him as more of a reliever type, but he's shown that he's got good stuff as a pitcher. And I talked to pitching coach Andrew Bench before this game, and he said that, Jackson Miles is a pitcher he thinks has a ton of potential, especially as a starter, because he mixes it up well. He just thinks that time is what he needs. Marinate a little bit in the league, get used to it, understand the flow, scout some of the opposing batters, and then he'll figure it out. He really likes what's in his arsenal, and for the Mavericks this year, starting pitching has not been a prize for them at all. It has actually been a weakness compared to years past, at least, so Miles will look to switch things up. It was a tough start for Julian Picorni in the Mavericks' last home game. That was on Friday. In Thursday's game against the Saskatoon Berries, Derek Archer pitched probably the best game from any Mavericks pitcher this year. For Jackson Miles, he's just looking to go deep. That will help his bullpen out. They're well rested, but still, the Mavericks have a lot of games coming up, and he would like to at least solidify himself in this game and, get the Mavs through as many innings possible on the bump. Tall task to start is he'll see the perennial leadoff hitter for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. It is Thomas Soto, a switch hitter. He's electing to bat left here against the righty in Miles. First pitch is going to miss for ball 1, and Miles will start out behind the count. Speaking of counts, there's never one of those that Thomas Soto is out of. A fantastic contact hitter. He hits the gaps well, and stunned with a strike there, it got him off balance. The Mavericks infield, it is a well-rounded group. Lots of athletic freaks out there. We've seen what Nick Hill and Johnny Volcano have been able to do this year. And talk about Frankie Giacalone at first, a football background. Obviously, baseball is where he stars, but so nimble on his feet and stretches very well for a big guy. 2-1 count here to Soto. And Soto, a swing and a miss. Head shake there from Soto, who's usually very on time. You talk about some of the best timing hitters in the league. Soto is among them, and Carter Roth, who he looks over to at second base, also among the best. Here's the 2-2 from Miles. Soto's going to pop this one over towards center field. Morrison will back up, and that's out number one. Kind of a rare fly ball from Thomas Soto. He's so good at shooting the ball through gaps and kind of playing along the ground, and he won't reach during his first plate appearance tonight. Here comes another big-time threat in William Edwards, the two-time All-Star. Edwards, record-setting season in 2025. A slower start to this year. He's picked it up, obviously named to the 2026 All-Star team, and another guy that can just do a whole lot with a bat in hand. Pitch is going to miss on the outside. He's going to have to deal with probably a tighter strike zone tonight just because Jamel Chabot frames so well. Edwards swings this off into right field and foul. One thing you can always appreciate about William Edwards is that he's patient at the plate, but at the same time, he's got a great eye to jump to pitches. Miles. 1-1 count here to Edwards. Setting up inside there with Chabot, and the ball will end low for ball two. Miles, a guy who follows exactly what the Mavericks are asking for. Working quickly on the mound, keeping hitters off balance. It allows the defense to settle in as well. Pitch to Edwards, perfectly placed for a strike. Miles shakes off a couple of pitches here from Jamel Chabot. A longer delay this time here as he sets up for Edwards on the 2-2. Ooh, good pitch from Miles. No swing from Edwards, and spoke about his eye just a few seconds ago. That's what it can do. That pitch is right along the line. Chabot framed it well. Neither Miles or Chabot could get the call there for the Mavs. It's a full count now to Edwards. Edwards, a jam shot. Chabot thought about diving out, but it was a sticky spot there, and he'll head back to the plate now. We'll reset it 3-2. Now Chabot right along the walkway there, path obviously to home plate. And if you dive there, you got to watch your forearms because you'll get scraped up attempting anything like that. Full count again to William Edwards, who battled off the last. He'll ground this one towards Volcano, bouncing off the side of his glove and in for a base hit. So Edwards is on. We'll see if this is ruled an error. It is, so no base hit. Take that back. And Miles will still stay clean on the mound, but not clean in the error category. It is something that has improved for the Mavs as the season has gone along. To start, there were errors left and right, and I mean, you couldn't go a game without seeing 2 or 3 error tallies on the scorecard. And the last few games, I would say, maybe the last 2 weeks, it's been a much cleaner approach from Medicine Hat, and they look to continue that. That not the case here in the first inning. Good pitch for a strike from Miles. It's Chris Franks who's in at the plate. Mentioned that he's sometimes clouded over by, obviously, Thomas Soto and William Edwards being ahead of him in the lineup, but he's got a meanness to his game that can work well as he grounds this off down towards first base, and it's 0-2. And what plays so nicely is Soto can rotate to either side. You get a righty in Edwards at the plate, and then you go to a lefty in Franks. So however Michael Gonzalez, their head coach, wants to switch things up, he can deploy any sort of system that he'd like. Miles right to it, and a foul off from Chris Franks. Franks playing at Ashland University this year, the same place that Nate King played at. They were teammates. And a storied career at Ashland for Chris Franks, who led the team in home runs and, of course, RBIs as well. Miles, pitch inside, and it just floats and misses. So 1-2 now to Franks, who stays put. That inside pitch to a lefty, very hard to take if you're Franks. See if Miles goes back to something a little closer to the strike zone here. Here's the 1-2. Fouled off again by Franks as he's making this at-bat long. Of course, Jackson Miles would like to keep the pitch count down in the first inning, but you just can't do that against the Moose Jaw Miller Express. Mentioned how well they barrel up the ball, and even when they don't, they find a way to put it in play and put it in a spot that you are not if you're a defender. Here's the 1-2 again to Franks, and a swing and a miss. So Franks, are they going to say he fouled it off here? Home plate umpire is going to say he got a piece of it. And so the count will go a little bit longer here. It'll be back to 1-2 again. Franks has seen 6 different pitches now in this at-bat, and 5 of them have been for strikes. Just the one ball taken on the inside pitch from Jackson Miles. Miles, this one hammered over towards right foul territory. All over it was Franks, and maybe a little bit too much as it ends up out of play. Franks looking to set up Eddie Saenz, who's waiting on deck, and Saenz has been had a great rebirth into this Miller Express lineup. Another one foul here for Franks. 300 hitter last year was Eddie Saenz, and he's everything they wanted in a cleanup hitter. They lost a couple of big names from last year to this year. Saenz returned, and he elevated his game even more. He's batting around the 387 mark, I believe. 1-2 again from Miles. Up into the air goes Franks. Ball will track back to right field, not far enough. Volcano will get under it for out number 2. A long at-bat for Chris Franks. He made Jackson Miles work for it, and Miles gets him out in the air. So here comes Eddie Saenz with 2 outs. Saenz, another guy who can just do it all, but he has some power in his bat. Joined the team later this year, has 3 home runs already. If you were to take a guess at what the leading home run hitter on the Moose Jaw Miller Express number-wise has, I'm sure you'd say, well, it might be around the 8 or 7 range. The leading home run hitter for the Moose Jaw Miller Express, I believe, is Garen Plummer. He has 4 home runs this year. 4 is not a high total at all, but that speaks to how good the Miller Express are at playing without power in their bats. They have the best offense arguably in the league, and they've done it without hitting the long ball. 1 ball, no strikes here to Eddie Saenz, and now it'll be 2-0. Saenz provides a little bit of that power, though, that they need, and you never know if timely hitting isn't happening in the playoffs and you're not getting hits into the spots that you usually do if you're the Miller Express. You're going to need a little bit of that power, and Saenz can provide that. Miles looking to hold that to the strike zone was Chabot, and it's going to miss. It'll be 3-0. It was a 2-out rally that the Saskatoon Berries put on Friday night that allowed them to put up so many runs in the first inning. I lost count of how many by the end of the inning. Pitch hits for a strike there from Miles. Miller Express looking to do the same here. There's been some troubles in the first inning for the Mavericks, and sometimes it lets the game get away, and they kind of unravel after that. It's not something that they've done well, preventing runs from coming in the first inning, and look to get rid of that here. This fouled off by Saenz should travel far enough, and it's over the fence and into foul territory. So Jackson Miles battling back to make this a full count here. William Edwards still over at first base. Looming over on deck for the Miller Express is Garen Plummer. Here's Miles. Going on it, and that bounces off over the head of Volcano. That couldn't have worked out better for the Miller Express. They're going to hold William Edwards, and how about that? A ricochet off the mound over the head of Johnny Volcano, who is moving in, and it allows William Edwards to get to third base. Over on first is Eduardo Saenz, and that only can be ruled a hit. Could not place it into a better spot, and it also could speak to where the mound is at right now. It is very damp. It's had lots of water, and you can see that from far away, probably on your screen, even though it's hard to make out. And it is almost clay-like up there. Not in the hardness factor, but like wet clay when you're trying to mold it together. Miles, new count here. Fouled off right away on the first pitch by Garen Plummer. Plummer, a guy who can rotate down to first base. Catches as well. They got a couple of catchers in this group for the Miller Express. Plummer, one of those. Another one fouled back by Plummer, who's probably the best bat out of all the catchers. Defensively, Evan Spirianis has put up the best numbers this year. At least when runners are trying to steal, he's very stable back there. And Gary Swan had a good defensive game last time he was here. But you can't ignore the bat of Plummer. And Plummer sends this one over into center field. Moving to it is Evan Morrison, and it's a clean first inning here for the Mavericks, who look to change the trend of giving up big numbers early on, and they do that here. Jackson Miles, a 0 in his return from the All-Star break. And here are the numbers for the starter for the Moose Jaw Miller Express tonight. It is Aiden Johnson making his debut here at Athletic Park. Not debut in the WCBL, but the first time he has pitched here as a member of the Miller Express. The numbers are satisfactory so far this year. 2-0 record, a 4.15 ERA, 12 strikeouts. Those are good WCBL numbers, and Johnson putting together a pretty good first season here in the Western Canadian Baseball League. He is one of many who are above 6 feet and stand on the mound for the Miller Express. He stands 6'6", which I believe is the tallest out of all the Miller Express pitchers, but Sean Bavis, who was here earlier, I believe he is 6'6", so the two tied for that. Weston Walls, I think, is 6'3". The amount of 6-footers, I mean, there are a lot for the Miller Express. And it's almost a terrifying sight when you get up there and you see a guy that's just hanging over the mound and throwing downward towards you. Another tall figure at the plate. Evan Morrison will come up to face Aiden Johnson for the first time in this game. Morrison, leadoff hitter again for the Mavericks. First pitch taken for a ball by Morrison. Morrison, Blake Dale, Frankie Giacalone, Carter Roth, the familiar four starting for the Mavericks. Morrison lets that go for a ball. So 2-0 to begin here for Aiden Johnson. Johnson finds the strike zone, looking to work away from Morrison. Didn't generate swings the first two times around. And a quick worker on the mound. That's at least what it looks like from Johnson here. Morrison takes again for a strike. He takes on the first 4 pitches here, and it's a 2-2 count. Johnson with the old school veteran delivery. For a young guy, it's kind of unique. You see Max Scherzer with that pump behind the neck, and Morrison sends this over into left field. It's down for a base hit. So Evan Morrison will reach, and that is how the Mavericks offense gets going. When Morrison gets on, they follow, and now with one on, it'll bring up Blake Dale to face his former McCook Community College teammate in Aiden Johnson on the mound. Those two are part of, at least WCBL standard-wise, what would be a stacked McCook group. Two-time All-Star Maddox Shaver was on that team. Michael Quick, who's with the Sylvan Lake Gulls. The list goes on and on. But Dale teammates with Johnson, so they're familiar with each other here. No cock behind the head that time, and a pop-up towards Ben Wallachek. He'll make the play at second base for out number 1. Interesting changeup of movement for Johnson. You've watched that signature dump behind the head. Mentioned Max Scherzer does a lot of that. Garrett Cole recently switched to that. And it's something that works for some of the league's best, at least MLB-wise, and trying to replicate that in the WCBL is Aiden Johnson. Johnson now to see Frankie Giacalone. Giacalone 2 off of the all-time Mavericks lead for home runs, and he rips in a base hit here. Could be more as it's down into left field. Morrison's heading for third. Lots of speed. Shorter throw. He's in standing up, and Frankie Giacalone with a double. Welcome back from the break, Frankie Giacalone. He was one of the league's hottest hitters for a stretch early on in the season when he arrived, and then he kind of tailed off in the last few games before last Friday. And now he comes back and delivers a double right away. It sets up well for Carter Roth, who is coming off of a tear at the All-Star game. He was 2 for 3 in the game with a home run, pair of RBIs. And one of the league's best average hitters is up at the plate here to face Aiden Johnson. Johnson. First pitch to Roth, and a good scoop there from Plummer as he keeps it in front of his body. Plummer looking to hand over to the home plate umpire there as they had trouble with the exchange. Johnson. High leg kick. Roth. Ground ball over towards third base. Morrison will have to head back, and that is out number 2. An interesting catching mechanics over at first base there. Not sure if Signs got handcuffed, but he kind of collided with both his hand and his mitt to make the play. Here is Nick Hill. The Mavericks have had trouble with stranding base runners as well. They haven't done bad in the first inning by any means or in the early goings of games. They've been able to score runs, but they're playing from behind so much that it really doesn't make up for a lot. Johnson is going to spike this wide. Morrison's going to turn in, and the throw won't be in time. The Mavs have a 1-0 lead. Bit unconventional, but Medicine Hat will take it here. Morrison gets across. Giacalone to third. Makes the day for Nick Hill fairly easy. He only has to focus on the 1 now. Nick Hill, talk about hot hitters. Mentioned that with Giacalone at points. Nick Hill, in about his first 5 games of the season, had 3 home runs. A ridiculous pace. I'm not sure that will keep up, but he has rolled well. He takes a strike here. It moves to 1-1. And this team's getting filled with Mid-America Christian guys, and they're all performing pretty well, especially hitting-wise. Jaziel Grudelars has turned it on with some of his play. More of a base hit guy. For Hill and Giacalone, it is the power, and it is the long ball that works. Taking there was Hill. No offering, so it'll be 2-1. Johnson will slow things down a bit here. He's still working at a pretty quick pace. When that's a part of your game, you can't get away from it even when things haven't gone well early. Johnson pitches high to Nick Hill, who doesn't swing. Hill back in here. Johnson on the way, the 3-1 to Hill. Pops that up, should be playable, could cause some trouble. Calling for it is Wallachek, and he has it over at second base. That'll be out number 3. The Mavs get 1 on a wild pitch. Evan Morrison comes across to score. They have a 1-0 lead at home against the league's hottest team in the Miller Express. The Mavericks with the first run of today's game, and of course, our score clock always brought to you in part by Stringham Law, the official score clock sponsor of the WCBL, and of course, our official scorekeeper, Ball Clubs. Always on it for every single game. You can follow all over the league, and their stats are ever expanding. For the first time ever, we have fielding stats in the WCBL this year, and there's a couple of guys who have been showing their best in that category, including the likes of Thomas Soto, of course, and the Moose Jaw Miller Express. And we mentioned Evan Spirianis, who's not in the game tonight for the Miller Express. He's one of the best fielding catchers out there. First pitch from Jackson Miles here is down for a strike as he begins the inning against Jacob Mraz. And talk about defense. I don't know what the numbers say, but known as a speedy defensive outfielder is Jacob Mraz. He does really well patrolling in right. He's steady at the plate as well. Ground ball over to Johnny Volcano, and that's a play that I'm sure he felt he needed. A couple of unlucky bounces early on, and one that falls nearly into the breadbasket for Volcano. He'll make the play. So with Mraz down, it'll be Michael Rago. Rago with a 2-run home run here earlier this year. It was his first game at Athletic Park that he did that. But ever since, it's been kind of a slow decline for Rago. I would say the main reason for that is because the Moose Jaw Miller Express are so good. There's not a lot of bad batters within their lineup. And on any other team, Rago may be the best hitter, but he's crowded over with a group of big dogs, and he can stand out from time to time, but it's hard to when you're playing with William Edwards and Chris Franks and Eddie Sines, Thomas Soto. Go down the list. Here's the 0-1 from Miles. Ground ball through the gap, and it's in for a base hit for Rago, and obviously he loves playing here at Athletic Park. He's going to try and get to second base. The ball got by over in left field, and I'm not sure what happened with Blake Dale. Just an interesting play from the Mavericks. I wish I had a replay system. I'd go back and take a peek. And it was a slow-rolling base hit. Maybe it took longer for Dale to charge into it. He's way back there in left field, so it's a long way to go. Now the Miller Express have the tying run over at second base, and Jimmy Kurtz up at the plate. Jimmy Kurtz understands pitching well. His brother Joey Kurtz is a pitcher. Played collegiate baseball. Jimmy in his final season, his senior season, and now joins the Miller Express for the summer. Pitches outside to Kurtz on his first offering. Miles having to work with a little bit of trouble here, but he has the one out. That's got to be a bit comforting for the Mavs righty. Pitch will miss again to Kurtz. He's working away, probably feeling like Kurtz wants to pull the ball. 2-0, a quick chat here between Jamel Chabot and Jackson Miles. Chabot has a great relationship with many of his pitchers, and Miles one of the new pitchers on the roster, but Jamel Chabot is a guy that can make your pitcher feel comfortable. He works the game really easily, can move well side to side, and can frame pitches really well. There's no framing stats yet in the WCBL, talking about all those new stats being integrated, but if there was, Jamel Chabot would be near the best in the league. Think about how well he's done for Medicine Hat. He gets some calls that regularly an average catcher would not get. Pitch misses there for a ball, and there's not a lot you can do in that case. Kurtz threatening to walk here on 4 pitches, and it will bring up Ben Wallachek. We've talked a lot about him over the years, his fast play, his choppiness, and of course his willingness to speak his mind on the diamond. Strike from Miles will make it 3-1. Kurtz, no chances to offer yet against Miles, and maybe a 3-1 look will change things. Miles on the way. Another good pitch for a strike. He's working away again and again from Kurtz, but now he's found the strike zone, and that has helped him get back on track here, making it 3-2. Kurtz so far this year at .241 average with a .690 OPS. I'm sure he's not too pleased with the OPS numbers being down. Here's Miles. Full count pitch and a swing and a miss. Foul tip into the glove, and that's out number 2, a big out for Jackson Miles. He's looking to firmly plant the runner over at second base in that spot in Michael Rago. Ben Wallachek, the last guy in the lineup for the Moose Jaw Miller Express here, but he is a leadoff hitter in many ways. And I talked to Michael Gonzalez earlier this year, and he said it's like almost having two leadoff hitters in some ways. You just have so much speed. That package of going from him to Soto is something that no other team has in the league. Runner going to go here. Chabot, good arm, down to third, and a little bit low. Didn't get into the glove in time. And there is Michael Rago. That makes the life easier for Ben Wallachek. So Rago a little bit closer, and he's inching closer to tying the game. Miles. Pitch is outside. It got caught up in the gear of Jamel Chabot and then nearly hit the umpire, but able to corral it there with Chabot, get it back to the mound. Wallachek went to bunt, and it's called a strike. So pulling back at the last minute there was Wallachek. If he bunts it, it probably heads down the first base line. And now it is 1-2. I'd be shocked if Wallachek goes back to the bunt look here. We've seen one player do that so far this year. Wallachek over into right field, into the neighborhood of Adam Volcano. He'll hop and make the play. So at one runner left on, Jackson Miles working efficiently on the mound. You know, the pitch count's getting up there, but he's not wasting a lot of time getting it to the plate. And he's got the Mavs 2 clean innings to start here at home.
40 years, we've been there, helping Canadians find the extra space they need to grow and to create new memories. Sentinel Storage. Buy Canadian, store Canadian.
For over a century, we've been more than just lawyers. We're your neighbors, your friends, and your strongest advocates. With locations across the prairies, we're everywhere you are. Stringham, your local lawyers.
Yo, Dustin, you going?
Yes.
Can I join you guys? All right, let's go.
Whether it's on the ice or on our app, always play for the fun of the game. Gamble responsibly with Play Alberta.
Here's a look at tonight's head-to-head matchup between the Miller Express and Medicine Hat Mavericks. The records, there's a stark difference, obviously. The Miller Express, 29-11 so far this season. That's not on pace to break the best record of all time, which the Saskatoon Berries set a season ago, but it is really good, and it's good enough to put them in position to get the first seed heading into the playoffs, which means home field advantage all the way to the final and maybe beyond, depending on what happens in the West. The Mavs just playing to get into the playoffs, and a record that is far below 500 will not help with that. Both teams have scored over 300 runs so far this season. The Mavs trailing behind the Miller Express. And the first out already into the glove of right fielder Jacob Miraz. A flyout for Johnny Volcano. We won't even have a chance to talk about how hot of a start he has had with the bat, and he's getting closer and closer to breaking the all-time games played record for the Mavs. Right now, it would be broken on the 27th of this month, or would be tied on the 27th of this month, and then broken on the 28th. The Mavs will be on the road, so he won't get to do it at home unless he doesn't play in a few games, but on pace to break the 180-game threshold, which has been set by Brian Arthur for who knows how long. I think 2012 was the year that he broke it, and Arthur has had it ever since. Volcano going to be in rare air with the most games played. 0-1 count here to Eric Calder, who's at the dish. Sends it down the line, and it's taken over at first and tapped for an out by Eddie Saenz. 2 quick outs here, and Aiden Johnson will take that after a longer first inning. 1 in the air, 1 on the ground. That's the most crouched approach that I've seen from Eric Calder this year. He's usually very straight up. Everything stays the same, and although it hasn't been working as well as he would have hoped so far this year, it's his consistent approach that proves some positivity, and it proves a chance for him to get out of it because he's not changing much. A very different look that time, which I find interesting. 2 outs here for Jamel Chabot, who will see Aiden Johnson. Chabot takes the first pitch for a strike. And maybe an intentional take on the first pitch, trying to boost that pitch count for Johnson, who's had a quick inning. Chabot waits the arrival of the second pitch from Johnson. It's low for a ball. Chabot has spent parts of the season in the lineup and parts of this season away from it, mainly in the dugout. He's out of the lineup, banged up at points, but he's recovered well, and he looks really fit right now. High pitch from Johnson, taken again by Chabot. Waiting on deck is Adam Volcano. He'll be the last guy in the Mavericks lineup before they flip back over to the top. Johnson on the delivery. Chabot, ground ball, just foul over at third base. Having a good watch on it at third was Michael Rago. You can see Rago playing tighter to that line. It allowed him to get over. Chabot will come back up. He's talking with the home plate umpire to see where that pitch was at. 2-all on the score clock, 2 outs, 2 hits apiece. The Mavericks already have 2 errors in this game, but it hasn't cost them. They didn't give up a run off of either error. Chabot beams this one off into right foul territory, and we'll reset it 2-2. Johnson fireballing into the zone right now, right after Chabot. He's not afraid of this contest here. Chabot will take down in the dirt. When you're a catcher, you see the ball so well. When it's obviously being thrown your way and you're behind the plate, the adjustment to getting up to the plate with a bat, obviously easier for some than others, but for Jamel Chabot, you can see the translation immediately. He has a very good eye, and he is so patient when he comes up to bat. Full count here against Johnson. Chabot, high pitch, he takes and he walks to first. That catcher's eye paying off here for number 4, and it'll send up to the plate Adam Volcano. Volcano had a really good batting practice today. I got to watch his group when I went down for my short half an hour period of being able to, chat with coaches and see what's happening, how everybody's faring after having a few days off. I guess there were 5 players for the Mavericks, of course, those who went to Saskatoon that didn't get that luxury. But for Volcano, he's hitting tons of line drives and just whipping it off the bat. Tons of good contact during his BP session today. First pitch is taken for a strike by Volcano. Quick movement on the mound here by Johnson. 0-1 to Volcano. He's going to toss this one backwards and be fouled off. It will go to 0-2. Volcano, known in the Mavericks clubhouse, at least last year especially, for switching his walk-up song a lot. And he's a guy who loves music, so I'm sure the taste is always changing and what's in his rotation is always changing. What hasn't changed is how good he's played this year. Long one out towards left center field. Out under it is William Edwards. He'll walk to it. That's out number 3. One stranded for the Mavs. Chabot left on first. And Aiden Johnson with a fairly quick inning to what we saw in inning prior. First 0 on the board defensively for the Miller Express in this game.
Have you ever wondered if there's one thing that connects people from across our province? Something that connects the coffee shop to the spray park, or the brewery to the rodeo, the campground to the sports field. It's pretty amazing when you think about how it's all connected, because it truly is, and it's all we think about, so you don't have to.
mentioned, there's a wide gap between these two teams in the standings, and it was kind of the opposite last year. It's been a reversal of the roles between the Miller Express and the Mavericks. The Mavs off to a really good start last year, and that carried out towards really the last week of the season where they fell flat. They lost a couple games in a row, and then that transitioned to the playoffs where they were swept in the first round by the Regina Red Sox. For the Miller Express, they came out the gate ice cold. They couldn't figure it out. The Mavericks had their number early on in 2025, but it was the back half of the season where they made their surge, and they almost pulled off one of the all-time best upsets of any team in the playoffs. The Saskatoon Berries, obviously the all-time best record in the regular season, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, and the Miller Express really got to within an out of knocking off the Berries, and unfortunately they fell in the first round in Game 3. First pitch here to Soto in his second at-bat is a strike. Soto a part of that team, and you know that he wants to make it to the finals more than anybody. Very prideful about Moose Jaw, even though he's from Texas, kind of an adopted son of the community of Moose Jaw. Ball one here from Jackson Miles. It'll be 1-1 to Soto. Soto a fly out in his first plate appearance tonight. Miles, shoulder shrug. Soto, a swing and a miss. Off balance again. Soto moves very quickly after a pitch is landed, and you can see how the way that he got out of the box. Always quite up front in his stance, and very athletic is Soto in the box. Soto shields this off. It's fouled back towards the canopy, and now it is 1-2. Soto, always a decent average, but it's the stolen base numbers that always stand out, and he's once again in the top 3 in the league in stolen bases again this season. Here's the pitch from Miles, and it's high and outside. Tell Miles just trying to rope that back in and get it to a favorable spot. Unfortunately, couldn't get it to go. 2-2 here to Soto. Another one fouled off. Mentioned Soto was in the top 3 again this year. He's been in the top 3 in each of the past 3 seasons. Last year it was Ben Wallachek who was ahead of him. This year it is Soto who leads the league with 39 stolen bases. So he's 1 off of 40. We'll wonder if we'll get to see that tonight. Always excited to watch him when he gets on base. He's a fun guy who can fly around. 2-2 from Miles. Pitch was inside, letting it go all the way was Soto. Lots of base stealers among the top 10 for the Miller Express. Chris Frank's also up there with 14 stolen bases. Pitch on a full count. This flared over towards left field. Parked in a perfect spot was Blake Dale for out number 1. So that's twice now that Thomas Soto has flown out in this game. Maybe a little bit of fatigue. He did play in the All-Star game, and it's always a worry. How is a guy going to respond after the All-Star break, and how long will it take him to get back to full form? Same can be said here for William Edwards, who comes up to bat. Edwards with one of the highest plate appearance totals so far this year. He's an everyday guy for the Miller Express. Heading into this game at 189 plate appearances. Now that's, of course, up in the 190 zone. Pitch is going to miss for ball 1 here to Edwards. Miles, leg kick, working the inside on Edwards, no swing. Chris Frank's getting a little bit of advice over on deck, or maybe just having a casual conversation with Eddie Signs. See what they have in store the second time around against Miles. Edwards lobs this one over into center field. Maybe not the best jump initially for Morrison, but he gets there for out number 2, and this is not what we usually see from the Miller Express. Contact like that is something that often ends up in play, and you wonder if it's just one of those days where things don't click. It's still very early, but that's at least what it's shown through 3 innings of play, is that things not clicking contact-wise for the Miller Express. Here comes Chris Franks, a guy that can always change that fortune. Leader in triples in the WCBL this year with 4. First pitch is a strike from Jackson Miles. And it's the approach from Miles that keeps working well. The time between when he gets the ball back and when he sends the ball to Jamel Chabot seems to be the same every time, and that means a pitcher's in a good rhythm. Second pitch is just going to miss to Franks. So it'll be 1-1. Franks also high on the hits tally this year. He's one of the few who have over 50 hits in the WCBL, 53 coming into this game. Franks. This one spills down the line and just fouled towards the Miller Express bullpen. We're going to talk a lot about some of the arms that come out of that bullpen tonight. Of course, Nathan Pichot, an all-star. Jacob Glazner, more of a starter this year. He's come out of the bullpen in the past. Think about veterans like Jordan Bauer. Hayden Simon had a really good start to this year. Lots of weapons to be deployed by Michael Gonzalez. Pitch away here to Franks, and it'll be 2-2. Franks has been hovering around the top of many leaderboards this season. Mentioned that he leads in triples and is high up in hits as well. It's the extra base hit pop that works well for Franks. Pitch is inside for ball 3. It'll be a full count now. Franks very patient. Waiting on deck is Eddie Signs. Will Miles see him next inning or in this one? We're about to find out. Franks, ground ball over towards Volcano. He bobbled it, gets it back, stays with it. Bouncer to first. Giacalone off the hop. And a play that looked dysfunctional is managed by Giacalone. And a good persevering play from Johnny Volcano from short. The Mavs, a third consecutive 0 up on the score clock. This is what they wanted. This is what they were hoping for. And they are putting it to the Miller Express right now, at least defensively, staying stable, not folding. They've got a 1-0 lead here at home. Ever since I was a Jit, I've been legit. That is what the walk-up song for Evan Morrison says. And what does Jit mean? Well, it means a younger self. And Evan Morrison, his younger self, grew up in this community, played ball at a high level, continued to do that, arrived with the Mavericks, and has had shades of that in this season. He'd probably say that his peak was in 2025 as far as the highest level he's reached, but he's had good moments and a great catch there from Thomas Soto. A beam off the bat of Morrison. He's figured out how to move the ball around the field a bit more. And we've seen a couple of hits into left field, kind of that slicing spray. And for Morrison, if he can stay to that routine, stick to what he's been doing with some of his opposite field hits, that plays well because a lot of teams have played him to pull in years past, and he's gotten away from that, and that has been noticeable in the last month. Pitch to Blake Dale is going to be grounded foul. Dale in the home run derby at the All-Star game, so I wonder how those arms are feeling. I talked to him before the derby, before he hit the road and went down to Saskatchewan, but he said he was excited for it, knew it would be tiring, and we'll see if the effects show in this game. The 0-1 here from Aiden Johnson. Another one pulled foul by Blake Dale, so he's been ahead twice against Johnson, but he's behind in the count 0-2. Frankie Giacalone waits over on deck. What's helping the Mavs offense right now is that their pitcher Jackson Miles has thrown 3 scoreless. Johnson misses outside. You never know what former teammates still chat with each other away from the park, but if there have been conversations between Johnson and Blake Dale, I'm sure they've been friendly, and I'm sure this battle means a little bit more for the personal rivalry. Pitch inside to Dale. He'll hold off. It's 2-2. A little bit of scuffling going on in the Miller Express bullpen, but nothing serious down there. Johnson, Dale, swing and a miss. The off-speed pitch, nose-diving from Aiden Johnson. Brilliance on the mound, and he gets a second out here in the bottom of the third. Frankie Giacalone, a double in his first plate appearance of the night. It doesn't have to be the long ball for Giacalone. When that isn't working, he can turn to his extra base hit skills, and he might not fly like a Blake Dale or maybe a Carter Roth, but Giacalone, underrated speed amongst Mavericks runners. Just because the Mavericks don't steal a lot of bases doesn't mean that they can't run well and that they don't have stamina. And I think you'd be surprised if you were to put a lot of these Mavericks in a track meet against some other teams in the WCBL. I think they'd fare pretty well. Johnson. The 1-0 look to Giacalone, painted for a strike right down the middle, and will set a better tone for Johnson in this match. Giacalone near the league lead in home runs, and as I was mentioning before, he's on pace to break the Mavericks' all-time single-season home run record. He's 2 away from tying it. A swing and a miss from Giacalone. That record was tied a couple of years ago in 2024 by Nick Thibodeau. Everybody remembers the power that the Mavs catcher had, and Joel Lutz up atop the leaderboard as well. He played much longer ago than compared to Giacalone and Thibodeau. 1-2, 2 outs. Here it is to Giacalone, and a swing and a miss. Off speed down low. Short toss from Plummer to first, and that will do it for a quick bottom of the third inning. Aiden Johnson, he's picked it up, gave up 1 run. Now he's gotten back on track, and he's keeping the Miller Express in a game that has been low scoring so far. These two offenses, they've proven it in other games, waiting to do it here today, post All-Star break.
In the seats or streaming to you. iCast Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
For more than 40 years, we've been there, helping Canadians find the extra space they need to grow and to create new memories. Sentinel Storage. Buy Canadian, store Canadian.
July, the Okotoks Dogs and Baseball Canada will host the Road to Okotoks and the Morneau Cup National Championship at the Siemens Stadium Complex from July 14th to 19th. Come watch the top 16 youth baseball teams from across the country. These are the future stars of Canadian baseball, tomorrow's collegiate standouts and professional players, all chasing a national championship. Don't miss a week of elite competition, unforgettable moments, and the future of Canadian baseball in Okotoks.
Feels like Eddie Saenz was just in the on-deck circle, didn't spend long on defense, and now here he is back up at the plate. Second go-around for the 2-year Miller Express veteran as he sees Jackson Miles for another time. Eddie Saenz, a guy that learns fast, and he's already 1 for 1 tonight. He'll get back up to the plate, take a first pitch ball here from Miles. Jackson Miles, so far 62 pitches thrown, 40 for strikes, but it is the time in which he has worked in, and I'm going to keep preaching it because it has been really good, that is going to have all the Mavericks coaches smiling down below. Here's Saenz, ropes this one foul. Mavericks dugout. Many of them wearing Santa hats down there tonight. It is the Christmas and July promo here at Athletic Park. I'm going to be honest. I know you can't see me, and I could just lie, but I did not participate. I'm wearing a blue shirt, so off theme here tonight, and I haven't really mixed in any Christmassy words, and that's because it's beautiful outside. I'm still trying to soak up the summer. You know, Sheryl Crow said, soak up the sun. Recently in Medicine Hat, there's been a lot of sun, and it's been great weather, and we got another perfect night here at the ballpark. Blue skies in the air and no wind to go with it. Pitch to Signs is low for ball 3, and a 3-1 count. Base running has been a specialty for the Miller Express, but they haven't been able to do that in this game. A leadoff walk here to Signs would allow them to get into more of a rhythm. Miles, the 3-1. Signs tanks this one towards left field. Dale's going to travel all the way over and make the play. A good jump from Blake Dale, and without that, I'm not sure if he gets there in time, stretching out on the run, and that is out number 1. Eddie Signs with a good piece of hitting there. A little bit of a pull towards left field, and the height allowed for Dale to catch up to it. If that thing's 2 feet off the ground, I mean, obviously that's a bit of an exaggeration, but if it's any lower, if it's hat level, it's probably getting down for a base hit, maybe even extras if it holds up in the grass. First pitch is swung on and fouled off. Already back up to the plate is Garen Plummer. Plummer spent his final collegiate season at FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson University. Before that was with Tabor College, played with many former Mavericks on that team. Miles, strikes called. Think about 9-hole hitter Micah Dvorak. He was a perennial 9-hole guy, but he played like he was one of those guys who could slot in your top 4 in the lineup. And what a treat it was to watch Micah Dvorak play on that team. This right down the line and in for a base hit, and shades of Dvorak here from Plummer. He's going to head for 2. Long throw for Blake Dale. He'll just go to the cutoff man in Volcano, and it is a double. And to go with it, a moose celebration for Garen Plummer as his hands go up in moose ear formation. So Jacob Mraz, a chance to plop a run in here. Just 1 out, 1 on here in the bottom of the, or top of the 4th inning rather. Miles dealt well with a runner on last time. The runner at third base, or at second base, actually stole third base. That was back in the 1st inning, and last inning was nothing to brag about for the Miller Express as they couldn't get anything going again, but they're almost due in this game to get one of their cheeky hits through that we see happen game in and game out. Here's one smacked towards Giacalone, and it's through for a base hit right on cue. Plummer's being sent around. The throw into home plate, Chabot. It was offline. Plummer's in, and we are tied at 1 apiece. See the ruling on that. I think it will be called a hit. And judging on the fact that there has not been an error put up on the scoreboard, it is going to be called a hit and an RBI for Michael Mraz. Mixing 2 names up there. Jacob Mraz, Michael Rago is up at the plate. They are 2 different people. Well, then you think of Jacob Mraz, you think of the, of course, singer. And they are not related even though they have the same name. And also, I want to make it clear they are not the same person. 2 very different talents. Here's Miles. Runner going to go. Chabot. It was low. Roth is there, and the ball couldn't stay in his glove. I'm not sure if they would have had the out. Moving well down towards second base was Mraz. It was a low catch from Chabot. It's a tough transition to get the ball from that angle and get it in time, especially with how good the Miller Express are at controlling the base path, how well they run. And now Mraz is in scoring position, a chance to take the lead at the plate here from Michael Rago. Pitch just missing. It'll be 2-0. Rago 1 for 1 on the night so far, knocked through a base hit. Miles A longer pause in between pitches this time. A third pitch that is high. Miles has thrown his fair share of strikeouts this year, but the walk numbers are fairly high compared to how many strikes he has thrown. Coming into this game, Miles having 12 strikeouts to 10 walks. And it is a 4-pitch walk here to Rago, who's off towards first base. 1 strikeout tonight for Miles, so that hasn't changed too much. Strikeout and a walk right around the 500 mark, I guess you could call it. Jimmy Kurtz nearly walked in his last plate appearance, but it was Miles who worked all the way back to get a strikeout, the only strikeout of his night so far. Kurtz, bat to shoulder, double play chance here for the Mavericks, and it's a strike to Kurtz. Miles navigating some of the commotion behind him, and Kurtz out of the reach of Volcano and into left field. They're going to send the runner around third. Volcano going to try and relay, spiking it down to Chabot. The runner got in. Miles thought about throwing to third, and now there's 2 into scoring position for the Miller Express. And I don't think Chabot would have had that play in time, but it was the collision at home plate that allowed the ball to get past. Miles was covering. No chance to throw it to third with how well the Miller Express run, and they got a 2-1 lead here. Doesn't look like the score clock is updated in-house, at least. They're still saying that it's 1-1. I could have swore that he was in time, but maybe they ruled that the ball was knocked out of the glove. Just waiting to see the official ruling, but it looks like it's still a 1-1 ball game. I guess we'll get an official call here, but interesting that nothing has been confirmed yet. I got 2-1 on my scorecard, but I guess we'll get an official word. Here's a ground ball over towards short. Volcano to first. And so another run's going to come in to score here, and I guess that officially tells us that it is a 3-1 ball game. 2 outs here for the Mavs with 1 still over on third base. The Miller Express have taken the lead in the top half of this inning. It's hard to know what the score is when the official score clock has not really changed or said what is what. The home plate umpire obviously had a call on the last play, but it was hard to see with everything going on at home plate. And back up now is Thomas Soto. A lot to figure out here, but 3-1 the official score, and now that's been confirmed by our official score clock. Here's the 0-1 from Miles. And a late call for a strike there to Soto, who's quickly behind 0-2. Miles. All 3 runs that he's given up in this game coming in this inning. Pitch will miss here to Soto, no chase. He's limited the top part of the lineup so far, but mentioned the depth on Moose Jaw. They're so good throughout the lineup. Any game there could be a new hero or a new star for their club. There's not a lot of guys who are just consistently not performing. And that's tough to face a deep lineup, especially with teams who can bring guys in and out, and whoever you're bringing in is still a high-quality player. 1-2 as Soto fouls that off. Here's another from Miles, and turning away was Soto. Miles' pitch count climbing up there. It's now at the 76 mark, but with a couple days off, he probably has a longer leash. Soto guns this one into center field. It's down for a base hit. An interesting first hop, and now it's a 4-1 Miller Express lead here on the road. So Thomas Soto couldn't strike his first 2 plate appearances. I'm sure he didn't really care. There was nobody on. Now with a runner on, he makes the Mavericks pay. And Jackson Miles doesn't feel like a game where he should have given up 4 runs at any point. He's given up 5 hits so far. but it's been a really steady performance. Even with the Mavericks trailing by 3, their offense really hasn't found its life either. Soto over on first. Mavericks will have to keep a watch on him here, looking for his 40th stolen base. Jamel Chabot, a good arm behind the plate, but will Soto test it is the question. They're going to check on him here. Tap from Frankie Giacalone. Good look from Miles. Miles. Edwards fouls this. So now it is 0-2 to William Edwards. Maybe a chance to run here for Soto if the count gets any deeper. Soto on his way. A short one hit by Edwards, picked up by Miles, whipping to first. It's in time, and so the Mavericks, they surrender 4 in the top of the 4th inning. Jackson Miles, a solid day on the mound still, but his club trailing by 3 as we head into the bottom of the 4th. A 4-1 Miller Express lead. And let's take a look at what other teams are leading around the WCBL tonight before we get to Carter Roth at the plate. Brooks and Lethbridge in a duel right now. The Bombers playing. They're on upset alert. The Bulls are right now. It is a 6-1 Brooks Bombers lead in the 4th. And the only other game that is currently going is this one right here, already finishing up today. The Weyburn Beavers and Swift Current 57s, a bit of a makeup game. And the Beavers with a 9-4 win, they're back into a playoff spot now with that win today. First pitch to Carter Roth, down for a strike. Roth was talking to Nate King before the All-Star game, and he said if you hit a home run in the All-Star game, you practically get the MVP. He's not wrong. Not a lot of guys get a lot of plate appearances, and he hit a home run and got the MVP. Roth fouls this one back off. It's an 0-2 look against Aiden Johnson, who's still commanding well on the mound. Talked about that Weyburn is into a playoff spot. I believe they leapfrogged the Regina Red Sox. They were half a game back, but I think they have the tiebreaker in that matchup. The Mavericks have the tiebreakers over both the Regina Red Sox and the Weyburn Beavers. And if you want to look even further, they have that as well against the Swift Current 57s. Roth, soft one over to his teammate at the All-Star game in Soto, and that'll be the first out here. Roth must be feeling like he wasted his swings at the skills competition, and now here today it has not been a good day so far. 0 for 2 is Roth. Still lots of time to make up ground, and it'll bring up the 0 for 1 Nick Hill to face Aiden Johnson for a second time. Johnson, high pitch to Hill. It's always a quick flinch right after that ball hits the back of the catcher's glove for Hill. Always on standby. There's not a lot that can get by him when it's in the zone. He makes pitchers pay. That's called a strike. Hill felt it was on the higher side, just judging on his reaction, and didn't swing away. Johnson. Hill scoops that off, and now he's behind here 1-2. Aiden Johnson's done a really good job of staying ahead in counts And against some of the Mavericks' best hitters, he looks like a guy that doesn't walk a lot of people, and that has been a struggle for many pitchers throughout the WCBL this year, is the high walk numbers. Here's the 1-2 to Hill, a swing and a miss, and that is two of the best Maverick hitters down as Roth flies out. Hill's going to strike out, and it'll bring to the plate Johnny Volcano. So Johnny Volcano got 2 days off, comes back, one plate appearance in this game, and one swing, got one out. He'll look for a longer one this time around. Volcano swings at the first pitch again, and that sends the dugout into chaos. Running away there was all the pitchers located on the left-hand side. Speaking of pitchers, nobody warming up yet for the Medicine Hat Mavericks, and it means that Jackson Miles is going to get another look in the next. And the same can be said for Aiden Johnson. No action behind him. This one popped into the air by Volcano. Ranging all the way out into the outfield is Soto, and he makes the play. A tough play moving backwards. It is 3 up, 3 down here. Aiden Johnson taking over on the mound. Another splendid inning for the Miller Express righty. Top of 5 begins with Chris Franks, and he begins with a ball here from Jackson Miles, who's in his 5th inning of work here at home. And this is a spot that the Mavs would like for him to get through. It has been a tall task getting through 5 innings for any Mavericks pitcher, and that sets up the bullpen well. Here's a ground ball to Frankie Giacalone. One knee down, he'll make the play, and he had a hard hit ball towards him on a play prior that was ripped down the line, and it got through. That one a bit easier, and Giacalone able to get into position that time. He had the extra second, and that allows for the Mavericks to get their first out. So Chris Frank's not an easy guy to get out as well. So with him down, it'll bring up Eddie Saenz for the 3rd time in this game. And Saenz, 1 for 2 on the day. His one at-bat looked really promising, but Blake Dale with a long ranging over catch in left field. Miles, pitch to Saenz, strike 1 as he gets ahead. Waiting on deck is Garen Plummer. These two teams will see each other again, but they won't see each other at Athletic Park. Ross Wells will host the rest of the Miller Express and Mavericks games. Unless, obviously, we get to the playoffs, which is a possibility. If the Mavericks get in, they could see the Miller Express in the first round with how things have kind of shaken out. Right now, the Mavericks in 3rd place, but they've dropped their last 3 games. Regina has won their last 3. The Beavers now have won their last 3, so that margin has closed. You have 3 teams tied for 2 playoff spots right now. Saenz a ground ball, just foul. Hill was looking to unload from 3rd. And Instead, he'll hold up, toss it back to Miles. It'll be 1-2. Strikeout numbers aren't going to matter for a pitcher when you can get weak contact and get lots of outs. And Jackson Miles has proved that throughout this game, even with giving up some of the higher, or giving up 4 runs already. And that one inning has kind of been the Mavericks' kryptonite. They can play 8 innings of really good baseball where they give up 1 or 2 runs here and there, but it is the one inning takeover inning that has stranded them at times. Here's one towards right field. Adam Volcano, a good look to it and an out to go with it. So the first 2 batters down here for Jackson Miles. As the pitch count was rising, he's calmed things down. At-bats haven't gone as far. Now 2 outs. You can think about maybe you bring him in the next inning. There is now a guy warming up for the Mavericks in the bullpen. And it looks like it could be Jax Graham down there. Graham, one of the best relievers on the Mavericks this season. Miles. Pitch outside on the first offering to Plummer. Plummer with almost a fist pump there before he re-grabs the bat. Miles, Plummer, up towards center field. Backing up is Evan Morrison, but that's the deepest part of the park. And Jackson Miles works a 3-up, 3-down inning, matching Aiden Johnson. And that will set the tone for the Mavericks when they bring out the bats here in the bottom of the 5th. They need a little more offense. Jackson Miles has kept this game at bay, hasn't allowed one of the league's best offenses to start to rumble around. And when will the time come for the Mavs bats? We'll have to see. Lots of games still to be played here from Medicine Hat. Wanted to give our props one last time to Carter Roth for the excellent performance he had on Sunday, which I guess was yesterday. It feels like it was forever ago. Mentioned it on the broadcast. 3 at-bats, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, 1 home run to become the first ever Mavericks All-Star Game MVP. The All-Star Game has only been around since 2019, so that is the reason why the Mavericks haven't had one in prior times. But I think now, almost every award, if you go and look on the WCBL website, I think just about everyone has at least one player from the Mavericks who's come away with said award. Strike here to Eric Calder. Calder in his rookie year with the Mavs. Spent his collegiate year at Tabor College this season. 0-1 pitch here from Aiden Johnson. Calder. Another one pulled over, a hot bounce, and a great spinning play by Ben Wallachek. He is a brick wall that moves at the same time, and Wallachek with a spinning, disc-throwing approach over towards first base. He gets the out, and so now that is the last 4 Mavs batters who have been sat down dating back to the last inning. And that's not a way that you're going to be able to pick up your offense. And if you give the Miller Express more time in kind of this middling land where it's a 4-1 game, still close, then you allow a team like that to pull away because they're not going to just sit down for long until you put a little bit of pressure on them. Jamel Chabot gets hit by a pitch, and That will give the Mavs a base runner, so maybe not the easiest way to do it, and not the comfiest way either for Chabot, but he'll take first. It's the second time he'll reach in this game. Last time he got on via a walk, now a hit by pitch. Aiden Johnson, I can tell you this much, Jamel Chabot is probably not his favorite player to work to with the 2 results that he's seen. So here comes the 9-hole hitter, Adam Volcano. Volcano in this game so far, 0 for 1. Long leadoff here from Chabot and a swing on the off-speed pitch from Aiden Johnson. Johnson, a quick head twitch. Back towards Volcano as that inks the strike zone. 4 errors in this game for Medicine Hat, and yet it's only a 3-run game. That's almost a blessing in some ways. There's not a lot of games that you can win when you put up 4 errors. That's been proven all year long in the WCBL. The Mavericks have proven that a few times. Spoiling that pitch was Adam Volcano. So back to the mound, taking his time up there, as Johnson mentioned. He was at McCook, played this season at the University of Mary, which has produced a lot of high-level players in the WCBL, including MLB draftee Carter Beck. Frozen there was Adam Volcano, and he felt it was close. You could see by the head twitch. He thought he might be walking back to the dugout, and instead he gets an extra life here at 1 and 2. Chabot, not the longest of leadoffs at first. Volcano, a swing and a foul off. Ricocheted off the knee pad of Plummer. Miller Express coach coming out of the dugout there. Can't identify exactly which one it is. Back up is Adam Volcano. Just 2 hits so far tonight for the Medicine Hat Mavericks. Chabot thought about going. Low pitch. Plummer was turned towards first, never threw over, and probably the right call. You don't want to chance it. Chabot's just acting out there right now, but we have seen him steal a base recently. He's not known for stealing bases, but he's almost the perfect decoy out there at first. Volcano towards Soto, just around his glove, and it's in for a base hit. Oh, if Thomas Soto made that play, that's one we would be talking about 4 games from now. A diving attempt from one of the league's more athletic shortstops. Such great speed, and the fact that he gave himself a chance to get there, it might be, it might be impressive. I was going to say it might be just as impressive. That would be too far-fetched. And so now 2 on for the Mavericks here with 1 out. They get up to the top of their order, and I mentioned the importance of Evan Morrison. When he is on, the team starts to move. At least that's the way that it's played out around the diamond. When he can lead off with a base hit, it works well. Now he's trying to drive a few runners in. And in a 4-1 game, the Mavs need a little bit of pushback. Morrison, a chopped ground ball over towards first base. That'll advance the runners, and a tap on the bag will get out number 2. So 2 into scoring position. Probably not what you were wanting if you're head coach Ryan Reed, but it gives you still a look here for Blake Dale, who hasn't had the best start to his night coming off of the break. Evan Morrison was 1 for 2 before this. That'll change over to 1 for 3. Still waiting for, of course, our official score to update. So I don't know. I'm just going to go off memory here. I believe Blake Dale is 0 for 2 so far in this game. Dale, pop up towards right field, should be playable, and it looks like the Mavs are going to strand a few runners. They will. The out over at first base by Eddie Signs. And that one feels like a situation that was given away. Medicine Hat still trailing by 3. Here against the Miller Express. Aiden Johnson surviving a little pressure. He hasn't seen very much, just 3 hits given up on the day, and he is working deeper and deeper into this contest here at Athletic Park. Let's take a look at Jackson Miles' numbers to this point as he gets into the 6th inning. I can only hear the compliments that are going to be given out after the game from the Mavericks coaches and the job that Jackson Miles has done today. Just 5 hits given up, 4 runs, 1 of those earned, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. He's at the 95 pitch mark. I'm not sure how long he's going to last here in the 6th. I'm not sure what the criteria is for when he's going to be brought in or brought out, what kind of look the Mavs staff are looking for. But warming up for a long time on that far side is Jax Graham. He is very ready to go. You can't let a guy warm up for too long. A little bit dangerous when you do that. Here's Miles. First pitch, off speed, and it connects for a strike. It's Jacob Mraz who's at the plate. Mraz reached last time at the plate. Miles still working quickly. A high one over towards right field. Adam Volcano's into the burnt spot in right, and he'll get it for out 1. A little too much height that time for Mraz. That's one where you feel a guy just didn't get behind it completely, despite the spot being pretty good. That's the kind of swing you want for Athletic Park, that kind of push across into right field, use the wind, work alongside it. There's no wind out there tonight, so not as deep as maybe a usual hit would go at this park for Mraz. Here's Michael Rago. Rago. 1 out already for the Miller Express. Jackson Miles seems to be getting better as the game goes on. And they talk about that with Weston Walls on the Moose Jaw Miller Express. His velocity sometimes climbs when he gets deeper into games, and anytime Weston Walls gets into the 6th or the 7th or 8th inning, you're facing one of the league's top pitchers at his best. Ground ball to ball. Volcano, and really close at first. Waving his arms was Rago trying to force the call, and Giacalone sprawling out and making the play. There's the athleticism we talked about off the top of the broadcast. Giacalone not afraid to get his hands dirty, not afraid to run into things. We've seen him go into a couple of fences this year. He gives up his body a lot. That one probably felt better than some of his other occurrences so far this year, but the play was made well, and he had to do a little bit extra to get there. So 2 outs right away. Is there a chance that Jackson Miles has a 7th inning in him if he goes and gets this out against Jimmy Kurtz? We'll have to see. Ground ball just foul from Kurtz. Kurtz maybe not the power threat that some of the other Miller Express batters are, but a pretty good contact hitter. He was a guy who batted above 300 at Caldwell in his 2 years there. The hit numbers are pretty good. The run numbers pretty good as well. That pitch low to Kurtz. But there's still an adjustment period. For a lot of these Miller Express hitters, they said the first time they came up to join Moose Jaw was their first time in Canada. It takes more than a month to get adjusted for some guys. Here's Kurtz, a good swing over to right field. Volcano, he's got a watch on it, and he makes the play for out number 3. Jackson Miles keeping it clean on the mound, and even though he's tilting his head down, you know he's hiding the smirk. What a day for Jackson Miles, his best start so far as a Maverick, and it might have a little more to it. We'll see if he returns for the 7th inning. Aiden Johnson gets the call back out for the bottom of the 6th. We'll see him when we come back. The Miller Express Their lead's still elevated to 4-1, and there's something different about pitchers who come from elevated areas, and I'm specifically talking about one place in Colorado. That is Westminster. Aiden Johnson, born in Westminster, on the mound having a great night. And then Derek Archer went to Westminster College. I know he wasn't born there, but there's something in the air in the Colorado area, and we're watching a gem of a performance here tonight from Aiden Johnson on the mound. Ball gets away from Garen Plummer. It's a first pitch strike to Frankie Giacalone. Medicine Hat has not let this game slip, and at a part in their order that they really like with Giacalone, Roth, and Hill coming up. It is a big test here for Aiden Johnson late in his performance today. Does he have 3 big outs against 3 of the league's better hitters as Giacalone goes through the gap and gets in? So Giacalone will start it off with a base hit, 1 on for the Mavericks. That's the look that they want. And now a guy who's due comes up to the plate in Carter Roth. Roth 0 for 2 so far tonight. No strikeouts, so he's getting close. It's just about putting it in play. Think back to his the beginning of his Mavs career in 2025. A lot of soft contact hits, and it was just tossing the bat out and seeing what happens. And a lot of the time it worked. Here's Roth. High one hit over towards left field. Calling it off is William Edwards, and he makes the play. A little too deep for Roth. I'm sure he was looking for more of a shallow approach. It'll bring up Nick Hill with 1 on and 1 out. Nick Hill, a fairly simple guy. Very straightforward, and one thing that is easy to know about him is he loves to surf. Hill hoping to catch a wave here and send one far. He's been known to hit home runs in close games here at Athletic Park. With Frankie Giacalone on, this would be the right time for the Mavericks slugger to do just that. First pitch, a ball here from Aiden Johnson. Talked about the line for Jackson Miles. Only 63 pitches for Johnson. He could be in line for a complete game if this continues. Here's a chop swing, and it's going to end up in the grass for Hill. He'll roll down to first base, and they're going to get the out. Kind of a quick start there for Hill, who I don't think thought it was in play. It'll advance Giacalone, but you know, the Mavs probably feel like they need more than 1 run right now. They gave away the 2 in the last inning. Another runner in scoring position. A big at-bat here for Johnny Volcano to bring 1 back and bring this game within 2. Volcano talked about how he's approaching the all-time games played record. He also has the doubles record for doubles in a career in sight as well. First pitch is inside to Volcano. Going with the sleeve look today. This is a guy who, when he began his Mavericks career, no gloves, no sleeves. That's changed completely. He's got the full look going on today. Johnson, swing and a miss from Volcano right over top of the bat. Just looks like a pitch that is untouchable from Johnson. A 1-1 on the way to Volcano. He won't move, so it'll be 2-1. Giacalone waiting over on second base. Looks like doing the calling duties over at third base today is David Dell. Usually Ryan Reed over there, so a switch up from the Mavs personnel-wise. Here's a bouncer towards second base, a high hop. Wallachek to first, leaning to get at his signs. And another base runner left on in scoring position for the Mavs. That's 3 in the last 2 innings. And if you do the math, they're trailing by 3. Those 3 could have done a lot for them, even just 1 out of that pile. So a ground out for Volcano ends the inning. And the Mavs will move into the 7th, still trailing. But this Miller Express team, they have not found life yet. And that is maybe a little bit concerning on their side. Even with that, they still have a 3-run lead.
For more than 40 years, we've been there, helping Canadians find the extra space they need to grow and to create new memories. Sentinel Storage. Buy Canadian, store Canadian.
The timing is just too perfect for Jax Graham. High leverage situation, tight game. Jax Graham's going to get the call, and he's going to answer a lot of the time. And let's look at what he has done so far this year, matching him up against Jordan Bauer on our head-to-head. Jordan Bauer, more of a veteran reliever in the WCBL, playing like a vet, has been Jax Graham in his first WCBL season, just over 20 innings pitched. A 3.54 ERA with 16 strikeouts for Graham, so he might not blow you away with what he passes by, but at the same time, the numbers are good and the walks are low. That is what is important with Graham, is he does not offer out free passes. For Jordan Bauer, not a ton of strikeouts, but the ERA is low, and he's logged around the same amount of innings, and he's done it for so long. He's just so reliable. He's a guy that I think the Miller Express could call on tonight. It's either going to be him or Nathan Pisho, one of the two. It'll all depend on what the availability looks like on the Miller Express side. So let's check in with Jax Graham. He'll see Ben Wallachek to start his day, and then the top of the order. So the speed pocket here for the Miller Express. A lot to go through for Graham, and already has a ton on his plate. First pitch is a strike to Wallachek. Graham, a product of Badlands Academy. They've served the Medicine Hat Mavericks really well. You think about Brant Spencer being from there, Miguel DeJesus. He had a stint with Badlands, and of course Gary Dornan in years past. That located in Oyen, Alberta. Wallachek took a little bit of extra time. He hasn't been as vocal tonight. This is a different Ben Wallachek. Here's a ground ball over towards Nick Hill, passed and through for a base hit. What a way to begin the inning, and this is when the Miller Express are at their best. They get Wallachek on, they bring up Soto, and the rest just seems to work. Will it be that case again here for the Miller Express? Only time will tell, but that is what their trajectory in prior games has shown. So here comes Thomas Soto. A hit in his last plate appearance. One on, two guys that I don't think it is possible to double up even with the sharpest of ground balls. Wallachek back to first, standing up. That's how fast Ben Wallachek is. He doesn't even need to dive back. He's just too quick on his feet, way too swift. Graham checking his swing there with Soto. Official call is a ball from the home plate umpire. Graham will see Soto and William Edwards as the next two batters. Chris Franks to follow. Good spot there from Graham, and no offer from Soto. Soto, always willing to choke up on the bat. He's not a guy who's going to blow you away with power, but that does not matter. And he knows his game so well. He's not trying to shoot for the stars. Soto going to lay down a bunt. That is Thomas Soto to a T. Graham to first, not in time. He's probably the only runner in the WCBL that is going to make that play happen. What else can Jax Graham do there? Not a whole bunch. Just pure speed from Soto as he's off to first. And the two fastest players in the league on the base path. And one of the league's best RBI hitters comes up to the plate. You knew it was going to happen at some point for the Miller Express. This one can't be put on Jax Graham. One just through the gap for Ben Wallachek, and then Soto lays down a bunt. I don't even know how you game plan around that. I've had the privilege of watching these two for a couple of years, and it is special what they can do. They make you want to go and watch the Miller Express. And I've spoken about how easy it is to watch the Sylvan Lake Gulls. The Miller Express are similar, but for different ways. Sylvan Lake's a team you watch them for the starting pitching. That's why you're going to tune in. You're going to watch them for how well their catchers are able to frame pitches and how well they are defensively. But for the Miller Express, you're going to watch for the athleticism. You're going to watch for the speed. You're going to watch for the hits. And they've provided bits and pieces of that in this game. Probably not up to their standard, but there's still lots of time. It's kind of rare to see them at only 7 hits through, well, I guess not all the way through 7 innings, but into 7 innings. I just feel like that's going to change at some point. A bouncer off of Chabot, who lost his footing, and now 2 into scoring position for the Miller Express. Nobody out. And now here comes the unraveling for the Mavericks. Feels like this would be a miracle if Jack Graham can get through this. Even anything that has popped up presents a little bit of danger. If it gets into the outfield, it feels like one run could come across with the speed of Wallachek. Graham. Second pitch to Edwards. He waits for a ball. Chris Franks is waiting on deck. Get to see Franks for sure, and probably Eddie Signs as well. Graham. No call there, and Jamel Chabot trying to reel it in. Now there's a pitcher up in the Mavericks bullpen. Looks like it's Miguel De Jesus who's getting in some soft toss for now. Graham. Back into the strike zone, finds one to Edwards, and it's 3-1. Edwards, a chance to swing here with 2 on. Make it a 6-1 ball game if he can get both through. Pitch to Edwards, ground ball right up the gut. Roth ranging over to first base in time, so the Mavs give up a run to get an out. And so each side getting a piece of the pie. It is now a 5-1 Miller Express lead. And there was one out here in the bottom of the 7th. Thomas Soto off towards third base. What's going on around the baseball scene tonight? Wanted to include Jazz Chisholm in that mix. He's had like 3 home runs in the past 2 days. And for a guy that's not a home run hitter, that's kind of surprising, but also quite fun to see. First pitch strike here to Chris Franks. I think one of the biggest headlines going on throughout the MLB is kind of the slide of the Oakland Athletics. I guess they're not the Oakland Athletics anymore, just the Athletics, but they lost 10 games in a row for a team that was in a playoff spot. You have to feel for an organization like that. Pitch is low here to Chris Franks for ball 1. It'll be 1-1 with 1 out. There hasn't been a slide like that for the Miller Express in this season. They have been dialed right in. They've done the reverse. Every time the A's lose a game, it seems like the Miller Express win one. Looking for another here tonight. Franks up the gut. Past Volcano, who was playing in, and that is down for a base hit and an RBI single for Chris Franks. Soto, an easy one to score. It is now a 6-1 ball game. Double play will come into effect here for the Mavericks, but up to the plate comes Eddie Signs. A large hill to climb now in a 5-run game. Not a lot of time left. Think about the Mavs. If you go about it this way, they only have 9 outs left to play with. The bottom half of this inning, they need to see a number go up on the board. There have been 5 zeros put up by Aiden Johnson since the first. Here's Graham, runner gonna go. Chabot, good catch, toss, one hopper through the gap. It gets through both Volcano and Roth. Double play is no longer possible, and many defensive mishaps today for the Mavericks have cost them. 4 errors on the day, and another play like that, it won't count as an error on the scoreboard, but it feels like one, and that will be a talking point at the end of the game for Medicine Hat. Even when they're in games against good teams, it's plays like that. And that one's tough to judge because it's a quick throw from Chabot and you have to react on time. Long way for Volcano to go, but it is still one that you feel like you wish you could have back. 1-1 look here between Jax Graham and Eduardo Signs. Graham just 1 out Fouls up a low pitch that'll kick up some dust, and it's 2-1. Waiting on deck behind Signs is Garen Plummer, who's had a pretty good game. Signs so far 1 for 3 on his night. He had a hit in his first at-bat. He's been held hitless since. Graham, another one. His miss has been low tonight. You don't want to hang anything out over the plate against Moose Jaw, and I'm sure that was talked about as a part of the game plan for Medicine Hat. Even if it's close to the strike zone, it's still hittable for those in yellow. Graham. This one shot into foul territory by Signs, rather. Franks is still over at third base. He was watching it. Full count here to Eduardo Signs. Probably won't see Miguel De Jesus until next inning. Jax Graham will pitch for about 1 to 2 innings. Graham pumps, delivers. Strike 3 called. He gets Eduardo Signs, and holding tight is Franks over at third. Now the Mavs an out away from getting out of the inning. They've already given up 2 runs here. That won't be what's looked back at and frowned upon. It will be, of course, the 4 spot back in the 4th inning. The 2 runs don't help, but only when you bring into account that the Mavericks were losing does this look like a bad inning. And for the Miller Express, it's finally a time where they were able to at least put themselves in a position to lock things down, provide some insurance. And with the timeline that this game has been on, it was really perfect timing. First pitch from Graham is a strike right down the chute to Plummer. Plummer 1 for 3 on the day. There's just a few guys who have multi-hit games for Moose Jaw, and by a few guys I mean Thomas Soto. Plummer will foul that off. He's looking for his 2nd hit of the night. The only players without a hit in the Miller Express lineup are William Edwards, which that is completely shocking for how good he has been. He does have an RBI, and the other, Jacob Miraz, who came in to score but has not gotten on via a hit. Plummer double clutches. Hill shading away. Long throw over to first. Giacalone, a great play as he brings it in at the last second. Somehow avoids contact with Plummer, and that will hold an extra run from coming in. The Mavs now trail by 5, a 2-run inning. It all started off with Ben Wallachek getting on, Soto to follow. Both would come in. And the Moose Jaw Miller Express doing what they do best, putting up numbers, rallying late, and locking down ball games. The Mavericks will start near the lower half of their order. It'll be Eric Calder, Jamel Chabot, Adam Volcano. Then you'll see the top half. Situationally, this could set up well if you get some of the lower half base runners to get on. Then you flip to your big dogs, you see what happens. But the big dogs haven't really produced as well as they would have hoped tonight, outside of Frankie Giacalone, who's been on a couple of times and played some stout defense over at first base. He has stolen a couple of runs away from the Miller Express. But you need to get to that point. It's a long ways away, and Eric Calder is up at the plate looking to work against Aiden Johnson again. Johnson has had his number tonight. Making contact, not the problem for Eric Calder. It's been the story of the season. He's made lots of contact. It has been where the ball has gone next, and it has found webbing a lot. We've seen that again in his first 2 appearances. Calder. Called a strike there. He'll shake his head. It's 2-1 here to the Mavs lefty. A gap-to-gap hitter is Calder. Johnson, Calder spikes this one high and might cause a little bit of trouble, but running onto it and just making the play, probably harder than it originally looked for Jimmy Kurtz. Just saw the way that his glove kind of flayed out at the last second. He just gets a hold and one down here for the Mavericks. Now up to the plate comes Jamel Chabot. Jamel Chabot, probably the player of the game for Medicine had outside of Frankie Giacalone, and it's been his ability to reach. He doesn't have a hit yet in this game, but he has produced well because, he was hit by a pitch, worked a walk. He's done fairly well behind the plate. And now he comes up looking for a barrel. He hasn't had that yet. First pitch is going to bounce in the dirt. And there is lots of warming up going on behind Aiden Johnson here. So both bullpens very active. And it looks like the Miller Express are going to go to a lefty after Johnson. That's at least who's warming up and doing some soft toss. Chabot waits again. That's 2 down low, and not sure if that's fatigue for Johnson or just strategy against Chabot. The pace still hasn't changed. There was a slight dip in quickness on the mound, but it is ramped back up here for Johnson as he's gotten going. Chabot, a pitch inside. It's now 3-0. I feel like this is deja vu. We watched the same game 4 times over. Jamel Chabot, favorable counts. He's sitting, being patient. Adam Volcano right behind. I guess we'll see what happens next and if there is a change in plot lines. Chabot, given a strike. There has not been a whole lot of strikes handed out today to Chabot. Looks like that is R.J. Patrick over in the bullpen for the Miller Express, one of the newer ads pitcher-wise. Chabot rips this down the line. What a play over at third. Throw to first in time. Wow. Oh, Jamel Chabot has to be feeling snake-bitten. You can't locate a ball any better down the line. And it was the range from Rago at third base. Oh, I'm stunned. I got to say, I thought there was no chance that that play was about to get to first in time. What a rocket from Michael Rago. And he stole a hit away from Jamel Chabot. You just don't see plays like that being made right against the line. And it's probably because Rago's playing over towards that side. If he's any further left, it's probably through for a base hit. Here's Volcano. Chopped to Soto. Underhanded, quick throw to first, a bouncer there, and that is out number 3. Another 1-2-3 inning for the Miller Express, and it is highlighted by a excellent diving play and throw from Michael Rago to get the second out on Jamel Chabot. That's one of the best you're going to see, folks. Replay it again if you have to. I'm going to go back and check it because I can't get enough of the beam that was tossed across from the Miller Express third baseman. High pitch to begin the top of the 8th inning for Jax Graham. Mentioned he's kind of a 1-2 inning specialist, and it will be 2 innings for Graham here today. The rest probably providing that extra. Be interesting to see who closes the game for the Mavs. Swing and a miss here is fanning on the pitch was Jacob Mraz, the one of 2 hitters who do not have a hit tonight for the Miller Express. So funny, when Saskatoon played here on Friday, there was only 2 hitters as well who hadn't had a hit coming into the latter half of the game. Mraz looking to break his streak here. Mraz, stinger over towards right field. Playing it off the bounce is the bullpen catcher down there for the Miller Express. A high looping throw all the way back, barehanded by another catcher. I think that was Gary Swan who got the bare hand on it. Kind of an impressive feat for a play away from the play. Here's Graham on the 1-2. Swing and a foul off there. Maybe a bit of a stinger for Mraz. So it has to be a clean inning here for Jax Graham if he wants to give his team any hope. But you cannot blame those who have donned the mound for the Mavericks tonight. It's been the offense that hasn't found its legs. And just 4 hits against the Miller Express. It's not ideal. Part of that is the performance from Aiden Johnson. He just hasn't allowed a lot of hard contact and hasn't allowed for these Maverick hitters to place the ball well. Pop up over towards left field. Volcano's going to send himself out. He'll leave it for Blake Dale, and that'll be out number 1. So Mraz's night of zeros continues. I'm sure he'll be the last person to complain, of course, with his team ahead by 5. Michael Rago, a quick word with Jamel Chabot, probably saying, hey, are you still upset at me for stealing that hit? Maybe ask Chabot to check his pockets as well. That was mystical. That's some magician's work over at third base from Rago. Graham, head tilt. Rago over towards center field and in for a base hit. So if you can do it with the glove, you can do it with the bat. Rago on with 1, and now it will send to the plate Jimmy Kurtz. Kurtz, a slower walk up to the dish. Ben Wallachek is over on deck. Mavs already do have the 1 out. One thing we haven't seen a lot of in this game are double plays. There's been a lot in the air tonight. A lot of outs in the air especially. Here's Graham. Loads up. First pitch to Kurtz. Good block by Chabot. As this game goes longer and longer, feels like the Mavs are getting more tired and tired. That shouldn't be the case. But there's just been some mistakes. The 5 errors tonight has been bothersome for sure. Graham checks over to first. It was the opposite for Jackson Miles, who had an excellent day on the mound. He seemed to get better with each pitch that he threw, and he threw 102 of them today. His stat line stayed the same from the last time we talked about what the numbers were. Just 5 hits given up. Anytime you only give up 5 hits, you give yourself a chance to win, and it's unfortunate that the other side of the coin for the Mavericks has not transpired. High pitch to Jimmy Kurtz is going to be down for a second ball, 2-0. Kurtz. Look towards Rago. That was really close, right on the numbers with the tag. Frankie Giacalone had it in time. A good throw there for Jax Graham as well. Graham on the way. High part of the zone. Kurtz no swing. Jimmy Kurtz so far tonight, 1s across the board. 1 run, 1 hit, 1 RBI, 1 strikeout. The only thing that says 0 is the walk category. Kurtz swings, fouls this back to the netting, and that got a jump out of the ground level occupants tonight. It's so funny. Some people have not sat down there before. You're really right on top of the action, and when a ball does come close, it brings out the jitters, and that's kind of a funny reaction there from the 4 sitting down below. Graham looking to go to that top side again, had a pitch to waste, and now it's a full count to Jimmy Kurtz. Kurtz, 1 on here. A ground ball would be ideal for Jax Graham and company. Kurtz just stays alive, that off the top skin of the bat. Graham going to be put on hold on the mound. Ball boy's running down below. You can't probably see him from this level. He'll make his way back to the dugout. Back to Graham now. Kurtz. A twitch of the arm. Long lead off, and this one spilled over towards right field, and it's down for a base hit, maybe more, all the way back to the wall. Kurtz is going to round for 2. All the way around and in to score is Rago. Kurtz with a triple. And so the Miller Express extend their lead. It's now 6 runs high. They lead 7-1. And Jax Graham hoping to locate something, generate a swing, get 1 out away from being out of the inning. Instead, it's a triple and a run added for Moose Jaw. They've played this game so well, methodical. And I mentioned that's not usually how the Miller Express play. It's hack away, and, you know, throw hits wherever you can. Play a little reckless if you need to. But their method in this game has worked out well. They haven't rushed things. They've been very, very patient. Wallachek, foul on the first pitch. It's been a different night for Ben Wallachek as well. There's not a lot to get mad about when you're on a 10-game win streak, but the usually animated second baseman in, you know, positive ways and negative ways, depending on where the ball game is at and who's winning, who's losing, what plays are going whose way. Really hasn't been. It's been a calmer Ben Wallachek out there tonight. A very zoned-in second baseman. Good block there from Chabot. That one was aimed for the 5-hole, and he's able to close up. Jax Graham. He's allowed a few runs to come through. He's hoping to strand another at third. High pitch to Wallachek. Thomas Soto waiting on deck. He'll probably get both here. That means that Graham will have to face both Soto and Wallachek 2 times around. Or no, just Soto 2 times around. But still, that's even enough. Here's the 2-1. Wallachek. High pop-up. Carter Roth had to backtrack. He was almost running sideways, and he'll make the play in the infield. So it'll be out number 2, and it looks like Ryan Reed is going to come out to the mound. He's been in the dugout for most of today. Mentioned about the switch up. He's usually over at third base, and now here comes Ryan Reed. Looks like Jax Graham's game will be over. Miguel De Jesus from one Badlands product to another. The Mavs make a switch on the mound. We'll be back here on Flow Sports. Jax Graham found a way to get one more out before his exit from the game. Miguel De Jesus will be tasked with getting the last here, at least for the top of the 8th. Top of the 9th will come soon enough here for the Miller Express, but they would like to enter that territory with a 7-run lead instead of a 6-run lead. Of course, I think most teams would prefer that. I'm not saying that they're like special in this scenario, and they would be the only ones hoping for such. There's still a runner over on third base, and Thomas Soto is up at the plate. He's had a pretty good night, a night that started slow but has picked up steam. Miguel De Jesus misses low. Hasn't been all smooth sailing for Miguel De Jesus this year, but he has had his moments, and you can see why he's a pitcher that the Mavs wanted to bring in. Once he got the control issues underway, he's found a good spot, and he's going to get contact towards Carter Roth, a ground out to second, and it is a 4-3 to end the top of the 8th inning. The Miller Express, they add just the one extra run onto their tally. It's now a 7-1 lead as we carry on to the bottom of the 8th inning. R.J. Patrick comes into the game, the lefty for the Miller Express. There's not a whole lot that we know about R.J. Patrick in his young WCBL career, but one of the things that I can tell you about him is he was a part of the Miller Express roster the last time the Mavericks played the Miller Express here. The funny part is the Miller Express, because they've been so good, they haven't had to add or drop a lot of guys. They haven't had anybody leave, and that is something that has been a constant throughout the years for Moose Jaw. They bring in guys. They enjoy it there. It might not be the biggest community in the world. They might not play at Yankee Stadium or, the brand new Texas Rangers Stadium, Globe Life. I could go down the list of places that are really nice to play. But Roswell's has its little unique charm, and there's something just comforting about being in a small community. Not every guy loves the big city vibe, and you could go and play in Okotoks. You could go and play in Lethbridge, which is a little bit larger, I believe. But Moose Jaw, tight-knit, an easy place to get around, an easy place to be, and it's pretty apparent that these guys who become members of the Miller Express, they like to make it a habit, and they like to make it a long tenure when they join. Here's Evan Morrison, a lefty-on-lefty matchup to begin for Medicine Hat here in the bottom of the 8th. You don't maybe love the look just because of those two things, but for Morrison, he sets up here against a guy in Patrick that he's still, I'm sure, trying to find out a lot about. High pitch here to Morrison, and it's 2-0. Patrick, a guy who comes up here from Pearland, Texas. He's one of the many Texas A&M international guys that slot in as a part of this Miller Express team. You could go down the entire Moose Jaw Miller Express lineup, and you're going to find a few of them. Eddie Sines, who we talked about, he played there. I believe Rudy G, who was a all-star last year, all-star pitcher for them, he's a Texas A&M international guy as well. Morrison, hard hit ball towards right field, tracking well. It's down for a hit and maybe more to the back corner. Morrison's going to round, and he will stop up at second. A smart call here by the Mavericks. You could try and range for 3. It's a 6-run ball game. You just want to get guys on and then build. Morrison on here. Now a solid night with 2 hits on the evening for the local product. Here comes the Riverton, Wyoming native in Blake Dale. See David Dell communicating over with Evan Morrison at second base, and the top of the Mavs lineup needs to find their spark, and they need it now. Blake Dale going to try and provide that as he sits in against Patrick. Patrick, first pitch for ball 1 to Blake Dale. Dale has had a season of ups and downs. We harp on it quite a bit, but there's always a chance to kind of build yourself out of that, find the next level. And those are all cliches, but for Dale, he wants to make some of those cliches a reality. It's his final season here with the Mavs as he takes for ball 2. And in his first year, not a lot of playing time, more of a regular last year, found himself at the top of the lineup, and then he started to do some damage, and that carried over into this year after his collegiate year at Kansas Wesleyan. Dale just tips that aside, and it's 2-1 for RJ Patrick on the mound. He's used to summer ball, has not played in the WCBL before, but played prior in the Texas Collegiate League, and he played for the Victoria Generals. Victoria, of course, Victoria, Texas, not Victoria, British Columbia, just to make sure nobody gets confused. Dale, ball got away from Garen Plummer, but just to the side, so no room to run for Morrison. I believe Patrick, when he was in that league, I think he was 4-0. I don't have the numbers directly with me, but I remember looking at them earlier today, and he fared pretty well when playing with the Generals. 3-1 count to Blake Dale. High pitch. Dale works a walk. The Mavericks have 2 on with nobody out. There have been some rallies that looked like they were on the upward trend and have fallen short for Medicine Hat. There have been instances this year where they've put guys on and they haven't been able to complete. This is a big ask here, being down by 6. But if you get 3 runs even in this inning, say 2, that changes the entire look for the next. You're playing kind of within yourself, and that's the goal for all these guys, not to try and do too much, just stay where you're at. And Frankie Giacalone has done the best job of that for Medicine Hat tonight as he steps up to the plate for the first time against RJ Patrick. Patrick, low first offering to Frankie Giacalone, and it seems like the control's a bit off for Patrick. There is a guy warming up in the bullpen for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. Lots of motioning going down on that side. We'll see how quickly they go back to their bullpen. Patrick having a tough time finding the strike zone. Giacalone rips this one through the gap, and it's in for a base hit. David Dell will hold Evan Morrison, and the bases are loaded with nobody out. And Carter Roth is coming up to the plate. If you could put out a scenario for Medicine Hat in this game, what is the best possible look that you could make up for your group? This would be it. Bases loaded, Carter Roth. Never mind the score in this situation, just what is in front of you. There is no guy that you would rather have up than Carter Roth, especially on a night. It hasn't been his best, but he hasn't used up his hits yet. They talk about that when you go to a golfing range all the time, and I don't mean to switch sports, but, there's some people, they warm up and they say, I wasted all my good shots on the range. Carter Roth, he's yet to waste anything in this game because he's yet to get a hit. It has been one of those rare nights where number 10 is not on the scorecard. So Carter Roth, clean slate against RJ Patrick. Patrick, Roth, high one, popped up, foul. Roth would have been kicking himself if it was popped up into play, but the right approach here, looking for contact, hunting something that he likes, and he sees a first pitch strike. He goes after it. Patrick, comfortable with the call from Plummer. Roth. And a late called strike there from the umpire, and I think that stunned everybody. A drop ball there from Garen Plummer. And on the score clock, they already had up 1-1. It is 0-2 instead to Carter Roth. Good to see for Patrick that after a quick chat, he's back into the strike zone. Patrick, low under Roth this time. Waiting on deck is Nick Hill. This is a great 1-2 punch that the Mavericks have used well, but they haven't had situations like this where the bases are loaded for these two to come up. And nobody out, too. That makes it just even a bit sweeter. Patrick, Roth swings and misses. And so a strikeout to Carter Roth and a stunned crowd here. That's just something you do not predict. An 0-for-4 night from Carter Roth. He's a guy who's got to be exhausted, though. He played a lot of ball at Doane this year, and you know it brings up Nick Hill now, but how much do you have in you when you've played a lot of baseball? You think about playing the All-Star game as well. I'm sure Carter Roth can't even figure out the last time he had a month off, or had some time off, and it has been months. So one out here for Nick Hill, a swing and a miss on the first pitch from Patrick. Holding things together here is Patrick. The bases piled high for the Mavericks. This is a situation that has eaten them alive in past games. Patrick, low and into the dirt, no swing from Hill. Patrick will have to be careful here. You know Hill is thinking about putting one over the fence. And he loves the left side of this park. I wouldn't call him a pull hitter, but he's even more dangerous when he does pull it because of how hard he can mash the ball. With the bases loaded, I'm sure he's just thinking about contact first. Patrick on the delivery. Hill, swing out towards left field. Bit of a pop-up. It's going to range all the way over, and it will be caught in foul territory. Run will come in to score. It's Morrison on the sacrifice fly. There'll be 2 on still for the Mavericks. But this, just a unfortunate situation so far. Get Carter Roth up with the bases loaded, and so far you've only gotten 1 run out of it. And instead there's 2 outs to follow. Here's a guy who's got a clutch gene, though. Johnny Volcano will head to the plate. And Volcano needs it badly. Another guy who does not have a hit tonight. No hits for Carter Roth, Nick Hill, or Johnny Volcano. That's shocking to us all. First pitch to Volcano is a strike. That has changed here for RJ Patrick in the last 3 batters. He's not afraid to put it over the plate anymore. And now that he's found success there, he's going back to it. Patrick, Volcano, shields that aside, and he's behind 0-2. I can't imagine for some of the fans in the stands, this is just, especially the season ticket holders, it becomes crippling at times. You see so many of these situations, and so many times you get your hopes up just to fall. Johnny Volcano trying to keep the fans' hopes alive here, but he is behind 0-2. Volcano, ground ball, Patrick, over towards first base. He'll carry it the entire way. Volcano doesn't get there. The Mavs lead 2 stranded. To run it back a bit, there was nobody out with the bases loaded, and Medicine Hat got 1 run out of it against the Miller Express. RJ Patrick, he looked like he could not find the zone early on. He digs deep and gets a couple outs to follow. The Mavs head to the 9th, still behind, but now just by 5. After what was a meltdown end to the bottom of the 8th for the Mavericks, they'll get back on defense here. And Miguel De Jesus just faced one batter in the last inning, got a ground ball out towards Carter Roth, and now he comes up against William Edwards. No small feat here against Edwards. And he takes the first 2 pitches, so he's got a favorable look at 2-0. Mavericks will play quite a few home games against divisional opponents coming up. The Regina Red Sox are in town tomorrow, and then on Wednesday it'll be the Swift Current 57s. Fouled off by William Edwards. And more importantly, mention some of the teams that are coming into town. The Medicine Hat Stampede and Exhibition rides into Medicine Hat, and I guess more all the fare and the places you can eat and rides that you can go on. Those coming down. The grounds are still there. They don't go anywhere. Back to the zone here. De Jesus, it'll be 2-2. So lots of Hatters getting excited about this time of year. And the Mavericks actually going into a parade here pretty soon. They're going to have a float that's in the opening day Stampede parade. Sent aside by Edwards. So it's 2-2 to Edwards. It's just the perfect time for people to get all their cowboy hats back on and get out, celebrate your community, celebrate some super fun events that happen here. Bull riding and horse racing and what have you. Edwards, a check swings fouled back. Many communities around Alberta have those same little events. Medicine Hat has to wait a bit longer than Calgary or some of the places further away to get their stampede and get their turn. De Jesus, the 2-2 to Edwards, and he sends this one up the middle and in for a base hit. There's going to be quite a few grass stains on Johnny Volcano today. He's been diving left and right, and he's tried to make a few plays. You can see the frustration in the throwback to Roth. It's so close but so far away. Even if you make the catch there, it's hard to convert it, and this is just Miller Express baseball to a T. Talked about that they weren't at that yet in the first couple of innings, but eventually they find a way, and a hit up the gut that is too perfect for William Edwards. Now here comes, looks like Chris Franks is out of the game, so new hitter out for the Miller Express. I think this is Caden Ransom. I'm going to double check here. Just going off of appearance, it is Caden Ransom. The purple batting gloves on. So Frank's out of the game, and that's a key guy to not have in your lineup late, but Michael Gonzalez and company obviously confident that they have this under wraps. Called strike there to Ransom. Ransom mainly a DH. You're not going to see him defensively a whole lot. He's kind of a specialist in that set. Comes up here with nobody out and one on. Miller Express looking to add to their lead. Here's De Jesus. Down the stripe and a swing and a miss. Jamel Chabot wondering if he should get a new ball, and he elects to do that. One last scoring update around the lead. Brooks still beating Lethbridge, now 13-5. And the second game between Swift and Weyburn now underway. The Swift Current 57s with a 3-0 lead over the Beavers early in that one. De Jesus. Ransom up the middle. Volcano, Fields, Roth, taps over to first. Double play for the Mavericks. Much needed here. As there is 2 down for Miguel De Jesus. Weak contact that time from Caden Ransom. Just did not get all of it against Miguel De Jesus. And when you come in late in a game, sometimes you almost get a warm-up swing to the ball, and that was what it looked like for Ransom. He can hit the ball hard, not his typical swing there, and it results in a double play. So Miguel De Jesus, a really good relief appearance here today. He's looking for one more out, and he'll see Eduardo Sainz. Now 11 hits on the game for the Miller Express. The first double play of the night for the Mavericks, and a strike here for De Jesus. With a loss here today, the Mavericks will actually fall out of the playoffs unless Weyburn is to lose later on. So it is trending towards that right now. They'll be a half a game back as there's a swing and a miss. De Jesus ahead 0-2. Miguel De Jesus can be a really valuable asset later on, and I think pitching him in a big game like this is the right move by the Mavs pitching staff. He's handled it pretty well, and he's one strike away from getting to the bottom of the ninth. De Jesus, leg kick, ground ball off the top of his glove. Carter Roth is there to help to first base. And that is out number 3. Bottom half of the inning coming up. Mavs on their last lifeline. They are down by 5 here at home. It's the 7, 8, and 9 hitters in the Mavericks order, beginning with Eric Calder. And Jacob Keeley, the WCBL veteran, wasn't in the league last year. The year before he pitched for the Miller Express, he's into the game, and he is in with a strike immediately to Eric Calder. Calder has made contact all 3 times. That has resulted in 3 outs. Calder fouls that to the backboard. So 0-2. Keeley's not the closer for the Miller Express. That usually belongs to Nathan Pichot. But a valuable resource, sometimes a setup guy, and he can close in games where Pichot isn't available. Calder pops this one up. Left-hand side. He's been down that road before, and the play is made by Michael Rago. So 1 out. Jamel Chabot comes to the plate. Chabot's had a really good night, but he was robbed last time by the guy who made the last play in Rago. Chabot will look to reach once again here and look to turn things over to the top of the order. Chabot entered the league in 25, so before this year, him and Keeley hadn't had any battles before they missed each other on the timeline. Keeley First pitch is a ball to Chabot. Keeles didn't even take a second, and that pitch had some side movement to it. It's definitely not the hardest fastball I've seen, but the movement on it makes it very tricky, and Chabot was going to hold off there. Keeles low with a similar pitch. Now it'll be 2-1. Moose Jaw, 2 outs away from winning their 11th straight game. I guess it'd be their 12th straight game now if they get it done here tonight. The Mavs will be on a 4-game losing streak. I believe the Mavs' longest losing streak of the year is at 5, and I think the longest win streak from anybody will now be held by the Miller Express. Chabot had to double check to make sure he was going to first base. It was a borderline call at the plate. Chabot on again. That's one thing that's worked tonight. Here's Adam Volcano with 1 out. The Mavs have set up some good scenarios for themselves in this game. They just have not capitalized. Adam Volcano, a hit here would go a long way because the top of the order would get another turn in this game. Keeles. Strike call awfully close to the side of the zone, and it's the movement away that makes it really hard. I think even for an umpire to make a call like that, tough to frame for a catcher as well. Volcano, side swiper down towards the bullpen. One hops over the fence, and now he's behind 0-2. Big spot for Volcano. Mentioned the Mavs playing Regina tomorrow. It'll be an off day for the Miller Express. They're not going to play for a little bit now, at least according to the league schedule. Swing and a miss. Adam Volcano down on strikes, a slam of the bat. And he knows how close the Mavs are to going on a longer losing streak here. Jacob Keeles 1 strike away, or 1 out away rather. And he will see Evan Morrison, so the top of the Mavs order coming up to bat. Keeles winds up. That ball going to get passed, and Chabot's off towards second base, so he's into scoring position. Moose Jaw coming off of a 9-5 win before this game against Energy City. So a bit of a higher quality opponent in Medicine Hat tonight, and game really score-wise hasn't been much different. One ball, no strikes here to Morrison. Keeles, Morrison, a swing and a miss. The next 2 games that the Miller Express will play will both be at Roswell's Park. They'll actually play the 57s on the 23rd, so a longer break here, and then they invite the Mavs to town. Pitch outside to Morrison. This would be a 2-out rally for the ages, and I'm not trying to sound optimistic, but Jacob Keeles and the Miller Express are in a really good spot right now, and it would take, this word is overused, but a miracle right about now as Morrison now down to his final strike. It is an uncertain Mavs group out there tonight. Aiden Johnson, a great start. He's in line for the win, and Keeles in a good spot to do the rest. Here's the 2-2 from Keeles. And called strike 3. Morrison not happy about it. It doesn't matter. The Miller Express, winners of 12 in a row, the longest winning streak among any team in the WCBL, and it belongs to the Millers as they take their last game here at Athletic Park in 2026 by a score of 7-2 over the Medicine Hat Mavericks, who now fall in 4 consecutive games. Doesn't matter if it's past the midway point, at the midway point, before the midway point. The Mavericks continue to struggle Baseball isn't always nice. It's not always fun, and it can be grueling, and the Mavs experiencing that right now on the opposite side, and I mean very opposite side, the Miller Express, riding a high of all highs, and they are firmly in first place in the Eastern Division as they head back home for a bit of a break and then a match with the Swift Current 57s. We'll be back here tomorrow for another home game between the Mavericks and the Regina Red Sox, who duke it out for playoff positioning in the East, trying to grab those lower 2 seeds in the division. So that one going to mean a lot when we return here to Athletic Park from Medicine Hat. And of course, you can catch all the action, as always, on Flow Sports. My name is Truman Bartman. Take care, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.